Nagsimula na po ang deliberasyon ng Kamara para sa mahigit 2 trilyong pisong budget para sa susunod na taon. Pakinggan po natin ito.
To make sure that every peso spent in the 2015 General Appropriations Act is a peso that benefits our people, a peso that advances our country to inclusive development, and a peso that lays a stronger foundation of sustained progress, not only for us, but for the future generation of Filipinos. As President Aquino noted in his budget message, the recent developments in our country clearly express the awakening of our people and their stronger demand for accountability from their government. As the people's representatives, we are accountable for a people-centered scrutiny of the proposed national budget. At the end of the day, this accountability simply means that with the budget that this committee will endorse to the plenary for approval, we, the members of the Committee on Appropriations, can face our constituents and the Filipino people and be able to tell them with all honesty and sincerity that it is their budget and that its spirit is their collective interest. Having said this, and in the light of the budget reforms initiated by the Aquino administration, ours is now a more pronounced responsibility of ensuring that we are indeed the voice of our constituents who will ink their interest in the national budget. As representatives, we hope this responsibility to our constituents, we should not lose sight of the fact that as leaders of our people, we must also balance our constituencies' responsibility with the interest of the Filipino people as a whole. Our resources are still scarce. While we have a proposed budget amounting to 2.606 trillion pesos, the sum of the needs of our constituents from all congressional districts and party list organizations is certainly more than such amount. The challenge before us in crafting this proposed budget is to apportion the available resources according to the collective priorities of our people, an apportionment that will reflect our recognition of the urgent needs, especially of the poor and the vulnerable sectors in our society, and an apportionment that will reflect knowledge of what will result in a stronger foundation for growth and development of all of our country, which benefits all Filipinos. But our accountability does not and should not end with a people-centered and inclusive and sustained development-oriented national budget. In his address to the members of the House of Representatives during the opening of the second regular session of the 16th Congress last July 28, the Honorable Speaker Feliciano Belmonte Jr. clearly charted the direction of this chamber in responding to the call of our people for accountability. More than ever, we need to be more active, aggressive, and vigilant in performing our oversight mandate. As President Aquino reaffirms the Executive Department's responsibility in accounting for its performance in implementing the budget, we as representatives of our people should be at the forefront of calling on the executive to account for the spending of every peso disbursed following the General Appropriations Act. Coming from the government branch that is equal with the executive, we from the legislative branch should ensure that the spirit of the national budget gains flesh in the programs, projects, and services of the executive branch provided for in the budget. We cannot and should not shy away from our budget oversight responsibilities, because doing so will mean turning our backs from our people, the same people that we represent, the same people that lend us their trust and power, the same people that we soar to serve. As chairman of the Committee on Appropriations, I consider leading this committee in performing its very important mandate a distinct privilege and a great honor. Leading this committee at this point of our nation's history is an opportunity for me to do a great service not only to my constituents, but also, and more importantly, to all Filipinos. I commit myself to a leadership that upholds the sovereign will of the Filipino people and serves nothing but their interests. On behalf of the Vice Chairpersons and members of the House Committee on Appropriations, I assure our people that the budget bill that this committee will pass will be a budget that solidly stands on the democratic principles of genuine representation, transparency, accountability, fairness, and equity, and a budget bill that will truly serve our country and people. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po tayong lahat. Mabuhay ang ating bansang Pilipinas. Once again, good morning. We We'll now proceed with the presentations, and the chair would like to recognize the head of the DBCC, the Honorable Secretary Florencio Abad.
With the permission of the chair. The Honorable Chair of the Appropriations Committee, Sid Ungab, the Senior Vice Chair, Luigi Kisumbing, the other Vice Chairpersons of this committee, as well as the members present here. Good morning to all of you. On behalf of President Aquino and the Development Budget and Coordination Committee, let me say that it is our privilege to present to you for the 5th time the financial blueprint of the Aquino administration for fiscal year 2015. I wish to introduce to you the members of the DBCC who will be presenting the macroeconomic and fiscal parameters of the proposed national budget for 2015. NEDA Director General Arsenio Balisacan will present an overview of the Philippines' economic performance so far, growth prospects, and internal and external macroeconomic challenges for 2014 to 2016. Bangko Sentral Governor Armando Tetanco will present the monetary, financial, and external developments and our outlook for 2014 and 2015. Finance Secretary Cesar Purisima will present our fiscal and revenue collection performance so far, as well as our projections for 2015. Finally, as DBM Secretary and Chairman of the DBCC, I will present the overview of the proposed National Expenditure Plan for 2015, its underlying principles, and key investments we are making for next year. We also have here the National Treasurer, Lea De Leon, as well as commissioners, Commissioner of the Bureau of Internal Revenue, who celebrated her birthday yesterday, Kim. NRS, of course, the Bureau of Customs Commissioner, Sani Sevilla, and the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Diwa Ginigundo. As well as we have behind me the senior officials and key officials of the DBCC agencies, from the DBM, DOF, NEDA, and the Central Bank. Your Honors, as President Aquino said in his budget message, we are now discussing the proposed budget for 2015 in a truly remarkable time. In the 4 years that passed, our country has achieved unprecedented feats. Remarkable economic growth, the renewed confidence by the investing public on our country, the landmark peace agreement on the Bangsamoro, and of course, with the support of Congress, the enactment of the Sin Tax Reform Law and the Reproductive Health Act. These and many more were made possible because our people themselves chose not to let the status quo prevail, but to embark with us, with government, to pursue reforms. Certainly, our work is not yet done. Our last 2 remaining years in office must be focused on addressing 2 key challenges. First, how do we sustain our growth and make it truly felt by our people? Second, how do we sustain and intensify the reforms we have already rolled out? This proposed budget for 2015 addresses these 2 grand challenges. First, on the challenge of inclusive development, our remarkable growth must translate into real and tangible benefits for the people, especially the poor. So far, poverty incidence has been reduced to 24.9% of Filipinos in the first semester of 2013, from 28.6% in the same period of 2009. While this shows that government interventions have been effective in reducing poverty, this must be intensified to achieve inclusive and sustained development. That is why This proposed budget for 2015 was built around one simple idea, that regardless of birth, gender, and geography, everyone must have a fair shot at opportunities this thriving nation can offer. We have dramatically reshaped the way the budget is distributed. In 2005, the combined share of social and economic services was a mere 45.3%. For 2015, these premier sectors now take up a combined 64% of the total budget. Through reforms, most notably our budget priorities framework, we are ensuring that public funds are not only focused on the right priorities, but also intensify the focus of resources on where these are needed the most, the sectors and the localities where the poor are, and where we must create more opportunities. At the same time, as we increase public investments in development priorities, we are making sure that we are not burying our country in more indebtedness. Our efforts to put our fiscal house in order over the last 4 years have contributed to the renewed confidence on our economy, most eloquently expressed by our investment-grade credit ratings. On the second challenge, good governance reforms must continue to ensure that each peso spent makes an impact on the lives of the poor. The increased public clamor for reform only tells us that we should continue transforming the budget process to empower citizens through greater transparency, accountability, efficiency, and most of all, participation. With this, the 2015 proposed budget intensifies reforms that give citizens a greater voice in how their taxes are allocated and spent. Through grassroots participatory budgeting, local communities and civil society organizations in 1,225 cities and municipalities have contributed to the shaping of this budget. The 2015 proposed budget also intensifies government's accountability to the people for the results of public spending. For the 2014 budget, you in Congress supported the adoption of performance-informed budgeting, a reform that links pesos with the committed services to be delivered by each government agency. For the 2015 budget, we are taking performance-informed budgeting a notch higher by reflecting outcome indicators. The people through Congress are empowered to hold each agency accountable for the results that they must deliver. At the end of the day, no matter how well we design our interventions and how sharp we target our beneficiaries, this would be meaningless if these are not felt by our people effectively and fast enough. This is why we have to continue to implement reforms for faster spending and the more effective delivery of services. The GAA as released document regime and the disaggregation of the budget into greater detail, the implementation of procurement innovations. We also propose key policy reforms to Congress that seek to encourage agencies to use their budgets in a timely manner. The first is the reapplication of the one-year validity of appropriations. The second is sharper definition of savings. In the last 4 years, we have shown how good governance translates to good economics. Honorable representatives, through the 2015 budget, we intensify our journey towards inclusive and sustained development through institutionalized and irreversible good governance reforms. With this, honorable members of this August committee, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I ask that Secretary Balisacan be recognized for his presentation.
Thank you, Secretary Abad. The Chair will now recognize Secretary Arsenio Balisacan of the National Economic and Development Authority.
Mga kapuso, katatapos lamang po magbigay ng kanyang pahayag itong si Budget Secretary Butch Abad. Ngayon po tinatalakay sa Kamara ang 2.6 trillion pesos na 2015 national budget. Alam mo partner, importante itong tunghayan ng publiko dahil this comes after yung controversial na, debate sa Disbursement Acceleration Program or DAP.
Na hindi naman banggit no ng yung dalawang opisyal na nagtalumpati kanina, si Butch Abad tsaka yung chair ng committee na si Isidro Ungab. Pero parang kumbaga siya yung elephant in the room, no? Kasi alam natin na yung huling appearance ni Secretary Abad dito sa Kamara ay para depensahan yung Disbursement Acceleration Program kung saan nagkaroon ng malawak na discretion ang executive bago dineklarang unconstitutional yung ibang practice dito sa DAP, no? So kumbaga itong pinipresentang budget ng executive sa Kamara ngayon ay siguro mas narrow na ngayon ang magiging discretion ng executive branch sa national budget.
At bigyan lang po natin ng konting rundown lang yung mga kapuso natin, ano, based po dito sa isinumite ng executive department sa Kamara dito sa 2.6 trillion na budget. Ang pinakamataas po na nakakuha ng parte ng budget ay ang Department of Education. Sinundan po ito ng DPWH, Department of National Defense, DILG, DSWD, DOH, Department of Agriculture, DOTC, DNR, at saka ang Judiciary. Ang pinakamalaki po na parte ng budget ay nakuha po sa social services sector, pumapalo po sa 967.9 billion pesos.